It would seem that there's this rumor going around about the Xbox Series X having heating issues. There was a report from people that have an Xbox Series X in hand saying that they could feel the heat coming off the console, that even in standby, the console would get pretty hot, and that maybe we should keep track of this. Now, first of all, I have to say that I'm happy this is out because let's be real here. New hardware can be a pretty risky thing to invest in right away. Yet Xbox has been pretty upfront with everything regarding their console. Instead of having a paid promotion for their console like Sony did with their PlayStation 5 that showed us nothing about the console and was a complete waste of time, Xbox has shipped off the console to real people to give it testing in a real environment. And not only that, they allowed people to report on their findings and be completely transparent with it. Not to mention getting a console a month and a half before its release is almost unheard of. So when I see this heating problem rumor going around, I have to question the validity of it and look at every single angle to make sure it's not something being blown out of the water. Because we also have to remember, folks, there's been a pretty solid rumor regarding the PS5 and how there is going to be heating problems with the console, that the cooling system they used to make the console run at a decent temperature might have cost them a lot of money. And judging by the price tag of $500 while being far less powerful than the Xbox Series X, it might actually be true. But let's get into this rumor about the Xbox Series X having heating problems, because I have a hard time believing this, especially since I know this console is extremely powerful and would radiate heat regardless. I mean, pretty much every single device in your house that has powerful components to it will run a little hot. Your PC, your Xbox One X, and of course the PS4 Pro, which sounds like a jet engine ready to take off. So let's get into these rumors and what was said, because I find it pretty interesting, especially since most people with the console have done nothing but praise the console and talked about how its performance is very well done. While others might have a couple of problems with the system, overall, they've actually enjoyed their experience with it. So let's get into both sides and see which one we should believe, and so we can also get ready for launch of these next generation consoles that are only 5 or 6 weeks away. But first, like always, if you liked the video, hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. So right off the bat, I want to say that when someone hears heating issues in Xbox put together, they think of the red rings of death. The biggest issue that cursed the Xbox 360 and truly cost Microsoft a decent amount of money. That hardware defect to this day still has people hesitant about getting new consoles day one. And to be honest, people have a right to feel that way, especially when they drop over $500 on a new piece of hardware. With that out of the way, I have to say I don't think that's what's happening with this right now. In reality, Xbox has been so mindful about defects or overheating because of the Xbox 360 days, they aren't trying to have a repeat of that. Which brings me to this article talking about the Xbox Series X being a pretty hot piece of hardware. So as I mentioned earlier, Xbox has shipped out a bunch of Xbox Series X consoles to people all over the world. Mostly influencers who can get a hands-on experience with the console and give us, gamers, feedback on it. Well, a couple of those people talked about how hot the console gets when it's running games or even in just standby. Here's what's said. The latest Xbox Series X media impressions have expressed surprise at the amount of heat the console emits, with one journalist even appearing to burn his hand on its storage expansion during a live stream. It's not unusual for high-end console or PC hardware to emit significant amounts of heat, especially when cooled devices like Microsoft's and Sony's new consoles appear to be. The Xbox Series X in particular has been designed to create strong airflow through its top and rear vents via a large 130mm fan, which journalists and content creators praised last week for its quiet operation. Alright, so first of all, I have to ask, what part of the storage expansion is this person talking about? Because for a console to actually burn someone's hand, that's a pretty bold statement, especially since almost all hardware that's pretty powerful emits a lot of heat. Just like the article points out here, saying that PCs and other pieces of hardware emit a lot of heat, so it's very common to see. I mean, even my PS4 Pro and Xbox One X can heat up my room pretty easily when I'm playing a game for a little while, especially if it's not in a great place that has a lot of ventilation and airflow. But let's continue with the article and see what else is said. In a new video discussing his experience with the Series X, JX Video's Ken Bogard echoed others' praise for the quietness of the console's cooling system, but expressed surprise at how much heat the console emits as a result. He said, translated by VGC, "The Series X is hot, like really hot. It doesn't make any noise, but damn it's hot. The console is emitting heat like crazy. It's almost like a fireplace shaft. You can heat up your flat with it." Bogard went to note that the heat his pre-release console had emitted was generated entirely while playing backwards compatible games and navigating menus, as he does not currently have access to any Xbox Series X titles. So again, I have to say any type of hardware will emit a lot of heat and make your room heat up. It happened with almost every single piece of hardware I own, and if we take into consideration the amount of power the Series X has, this honestly is pretty logical to happen. I mean, come on people, this is the most powerful console in the world and was made to outperform any other console on the market. And if anyone thinks this is because of the design of the console, I would say that's not the problem, and I would also say that the heat isn't a problem. In fact, Phil Spencer has even talked about how they chose the design of the console. He said they went up to the engineering team, gave them the specs, and said design the console any way you want, but make sure it runs these specs and runs them well. And of course, the same team behind the Xbox One X, one of the best consoles I've ever owned, made the Series X. So no, I don't think this heating issue, as some people talked about, is a problem, especially since Xbox has given these people the Series X console a full month and a half before they released it. That to me screams confidence. They know it will do well and that people will like the console, which if you paid attention to the other people talking about the console, you would know that. Here's what others had to say about the Xbox console and how quiet it is. The first Xbox Series X press previews were published last week, with many critics reserving special praise for how quietly the console runs compared to current gen hardware. Xbox Series X includes a single large fan which Microsoft had described as whisper quiet. It's a claim that's backed up by the first Xbox Series X hardware previews, which focus on areas including backwards compatibility games and loading times. Sam Makovic of Ars Technica wrote, "I'll conclude this preview with the best news to come out of this venting weirdness. Series X so far is the quietest Xbox I've ever tested. Backcompat software runs the Series X to a high enough level to activate fans and unleash noticeable heat dissipation. But I can barely hear it, even while spending hours in current-gen open-world romps like Destiny 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2. And there you have it. One of the best things about the current Xbox consoles is how quiet they are. And to be honest, I have a feeling that this heating issue isn't an issue at all. I mean, come on, why would Xbox send the console to hundreds of journalists and other people to touch the console and use it in real-world environments? It doesn't make any sense, and to ease some of the panic I'm seeing all over the internet, here's what Jez Corden had to say about this. Microsoft tests Xbox Series X heat thresholds by putting them into special ovens where they can turn up ambient temperature, etc. Console isn't going to have any cooling problems a la Red Ring of Death, just more fanboy FUD. People are using something I said on the podcast clipped and out of context where I said it was enough to warm up a room, except I go on to say that it's like a high-end PC, Xbox One, PS4 Pro, etc. Electronics make rooms warm unless you have AC. And just to top it all off, let's see what Tom Warren had to say about this whole thing. Lots of people keep asking me about Xbox Series X heat. I'm under embargo. Just consider this, Microsoft wouldn't send these consoles to hundreds of journalists, streamers, and YouTubers if they had heat issues. They just wouldn't let people touch the console at all. Shrug face. And there you have it. I have to agree with both Jez and Tom here because this doesn't make any type of sense. If there really was a heating problem with the Xbox Series X, I don't think Xbox would allow so many people to play with the console, let alone report on their experiences with the console. Instead, Xbox is extremely happy with the console and confident it will impress everyone that gets their hands on it. The strategy of being open and comfortable with your product is something no other company is doing. Yes, that's a little bit of a dig at Sony, who hasn't even given the console the time of day to be shown. Instead, they keep it extremely hidden because it's a massive piece of hardware, and they only show it with paid promotions and have people that are paid to act excited for the console. It's so weird that they don't have the same confidence in their hardware like Xbox does with the Series X. So yeah, I read about this heating issue and I read all the articles and what people had to say. And I didn't find anything that makes me worried about the console, especially since it's being talked about by so many credible people. If there was a problem with the console, people would have known about it by now, and honestly straight away when they got the console. But instead we're getting a lot of positive feedback on the console, and I find this heating issue as some people trying to grasp at straws to find something negative about the Xbox Series X. And I'm not talking about the people saying it's a hot piece of hardware. I'm talking about the people that can't handle the fact that Xbox has been doing very well with marketing and showing their console in a positive light. So let's all step back and put this behind us and move on, because so far everyone that has the console loves it. Let's hope one day Sony gives people the same respect and sends their console out there for journalists to give an honest opinion on and actually give feedback to gamers who are just dying for information on the console. I feel like it's been hidden and shrouded behind a curtain. I don't know anything about the PS5, and all I've seen is a couple people blowing into a controller. It just doesn't make any sense. I want to see more of that console, much like I've seen a lot of the Xbox console. Because what if there's heating issues on the PS5, or what if there's heating issues on the Xbox Series X? At least people have their hands on it and they can give us feedback on what they know, and not to mention give feedback to Microsoft or Sony to maybe improve on things. That's what I want to see. I want to see great feedback that helps products become better. That's all. Let's hope Sony finally does this, and let's hope Microsoft continues to do that. But enough of what I think about all this. Tell me what you think about all of this. Are you worried about this heating issue? Are you afraid to buy consoles day one because of things like this? Do you think the PS5 and Xbox Series X will run hot? Do you have a powerful PC that runs hot also, just like any other piece of hardware? Doesn't all powerful hardware that you own run a little hot? Are you excited to heat up your room with a new Series X heater? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamertag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. Right now, I'm playing Dishonored 2. I just finished Mafia Definitive Edition. I had a lot of fun with that game, and I was thinking about jumping into Watch Dogs 2, but I think I'm going to hold off on that. I kind of want to jump in Dishonored since it's on Game Pass, and honestly, the Bethesda buyout kind of got me hyped. I was looking forward to playing something from them, and Dishonored 2 was sitting right there, and I've never played it, and I could work through my backlog a little bit on that, and Game Pass just gave me the game because Game Pass is awesome. I recommend it for everyone. But tell me what you're playing. Go down below. Are you working through your backlog? Are you playing Mafia? Are you still playing Avengers? Everybody go down below and tell me what you're playing. I'd love to know. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.